Now, the Democratic Alliance in the Northwest demands the provincial government to declare unemployment a provincial disaster. The party marched against high unemployment rate and submitted a memorandum to the provincial government in Mahikeng. Amongst others, the DA is calling on the Northwest government to adopt a Provincial Jobs Turnaround Plan, to launch a provincial infrastructure-first recovery strategy and establish a Premier-led youth employment war room. Yet another march concerning deepening unemployment crisis in the Northwest, and this time around the march was led by the third largest party in the province, the DA. The party wants the provincial authorities to immediately implement measurable and practical interventions to address unemployment. And some of the unemployed who have joined the march have lost hope. The MEC for Community Safety and Transport Management, Wessels Moreng, received the memorandum on behalf of Premier Lazarus Mokgosi and dismissed suggestions that they fail to deal decisively with unemployment. Moreng emphasized that there is no need to declare unemployment a provincial disaster. Statistics South Africa's latest quarterly labour force survey for the first quarter of 2025 has revealed that official unemployment rate in the Northwest has jumped to 40.4%. With the expanded definition, which includes discouraged job seekers, unemployment rate in the province is at 56%. Now, Jóhni Steenkamp of the Northwest Democratic Alliance joins us now for more. Jóhni, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us and a warm welcome to the late edition.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure to have you join us to have this all-important discussion this evening. First of all, what really motivated the DA in the Northwest to declare unemployment as a provincial disaster, and why do you believe this classification is necessary at this stage?
Well, the reason why we are calling for the declaration of a disaster is the fact that the unemployment rate is a crisis. It is absolutely a disaster of disastrous proportions. Like you said, the expanded rate is at 56%. In the first quarter, or in the last quarter rather, 57,000 people in the Northwest only lost their jobs. And declaring it a disaster would mean that we will unlock emergency funding for urgent interventions, fast-track decision-making and remove bureaucratic delays. We will prioritize job creation at the highest level of provincial government, and we will also send a strong message that this crisis is being taken really seriously, as serious as it deserves.
And Jóhni, you are calling for a provincial jobs turnaround plan. So what would this plan entail in practical terms, and what specific sectors would it prioritize?
Right, so the turnaround plan, it's a 5-point plan. It's a core part of the rescue strategy for economic recovery. The plan would include clear timelines, measurables, targets and defined budgets. It will also focus on high impact sectors like agriculture, construction, mining and services. Collaboration across departments to avoid duplication and ensure efficiency. And it aims to restore investor confidence, to stimulate growth and to get people working again.
Yeah. But then, has the Democratic Alliance in the Northwest costed or maybe drafted any version of this turnaround plan that could be immediately implementable if adopted by the provincial government?
Yes, absolutely. We call it our 5-point rescue plan. It's literally 5 points that the Premier has to take seriously and implement so that we can start creating jobs in the province. The first one is to declare, like we've been discussing, to declare unemployment as a provincial disaster. The second is to establish a youth employment war room within the Premier's office so that he can also monitor that really closely. The third is to implement a jobs turnaround plan with clear goals and sector focus.
Yeah.
The fourth is to launch an infrastructure-first recovery strategy to drive economic growth. In other words, fix our infrastructure, the roads, water, internet, etc. Because that when we fix the basics, we will attract investment into the province again.
Yeah.
And the fifth one is to table quarterly public reports on all the investment and job creation efforts. This province have been having job summits by the tens, right? But nothing comes from it. We invite people, we pay for them to stay at places like Sun City, the Palace, but nothing comes from the summits. We're not saying summits are bad, but then something needs to come from it. So those quarterly reports will give us a better insight as to what these job creation efforts are doing, and what these investments are getting the people of this province.
Now, Jóhni, I'm quite keen to understand how your proposed jobs plan differs from the existing provincial economic and employment strategies currently being implemented by the Northwest government.
So how our 5-point plan differs is that we are focusing on the response, the feedback from government, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, we have been asking questions, whether it's oral questions in the legislature, whether it is written questions to MECs, and nothing that we get from them, or we don't get any answers from them, rather.
Yes.
We've just seen that over 140 million rand has gone unspent in this province. And most of those unspent funds are on projects that should have created jobs in the province.
Right.
So that's, first of all, one of the turnaround strategies would be to, or rather, let me say, the turnaround strategy that we are asking from the Premier is to say that what he's going to do to turn this around. If the ANC has actually implemented a plan, and a plan that worked, we would not have lost 57,000 jobs in the last quarter. I think that's one of the most important factors to take into consideration. And what we are basically asking the Premier and his executive through the memorandum that we gave them today is that the Premier comes back to us with a turnaround plan, as well as a reaction to our memorandum.
All right.
And I think that's part of what's different, is the action plan. There's no action plan. It's
Indeed.
all been lip service, but there's no actionables with goal setting and targets that we know we need to reach X, Y, and Z.
Now, Jóhni, you're saying all the right things, but if the Northwest government fails to act on your demands, what will be the DA's next course of action to keep this issue on the provincial agenda? I mean, this comes at the back of, critics arguing and calling for the fact that the DA is calling for a provincial disaster declaration on unemployment is political grandstanding. How do you respond to such criticism?
No, this is absolutely not grandstanding. To put it in plain terms, the fact that this province is at a percentage of over 50% of unemployment is a national disaster or provincial disaster, and it should be a provincial disaster. We have been warning this Premier, as well as his executive and this government, since we came into office last year. We've been in office for over a year. The Premier and his executive have promised that they have a plan. The SOPA, in the beginning of the year, promised that he's going to create jobs. Just a few days after the SOPA, people started losing jobs. You can't stand on a podium and tell people that you will create jobs, and a few days later, people start losing their jobs. In that same quarter, it's 57,000 jobs. So we are not grandstanding. We are actually countering the grandstanding, and we are countering the lip service to say that here is an actionable. I said today during the march, and I think it's very important to note, that unemployment does not know gender. It does not know race. It does not know religion. It does not know politics.
Jóhni, great chatting to you.
So it doesn't matter who you vote.
Great chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Jóhni.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Well, that was Jóhni Steenkamp from the Democratic Alliance in the Northwest, just sharing with us, the DA's demands, that the provincial government declare unemployment a provincial disaster.